No, we're ready, or I'm ready.
Call.
No,
I am. Yeah, this is Sylvie de Brabandier. With the permeable pavers? Yes. Yep.
I don't need
I
a
don't need
presentation.
presentation. No.
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 Okay, yeah, it's a fairly simple one. I just wanted to add that the neighbors, all three neighbors that border the property are in support of the changes as well. We do have written notice from them that just was unable to get into the package on time, but they are in support. And yeah, I believe that's it.
Madam Chair, I'd like to bring forward a motion for approval. This one is a very straightforward one, and I think with the planning condition that there be permeable pavers in the backyard, that will address any reduction in rear yard softscape. So my motion is for approval, subject to the conditions set out in the planning department memo and urban forestry condition number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Can you hear me? Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, there's some background noise. It's not from me, and but I think you.
I think the mics are on. Other mics are on.
Oh, maybe in the room. Okay. Well, all right. Well, no, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know it wasn't from my mic. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name is Eileen Costello. I'm a partner at Aird Burles. I'm here on behalf of RVLP Property Limited. You have correspondence from my partner, Ms. Kovar, on the file, as well as some background supporting information, including a report from BA Group to support the variance as it relates to parking. I'm happy to do a presentation, Madam Chair, if the committee wishes it, or to answer questions. Thank you.
No.
There's nothing I need to add, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, I support this application. I think it's very straightforward. It's reflecting the purchaser's requirements for parking and a reallocation of those spaces that are not needed. The increase in density is a minor 1 unit, and I don't note that there's any concerns from reporting agencies. On that basis, Madam Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application without condition.
I'll second.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Vijay and I'm the agent for 479 Montrose Avenue. Oh, 476, I'm sorry. Nothing to add. I don't have anything to add. Okay, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I think this application has merit. I noticed that there's only one other three-story on this side of the street, but this is a proposed three-story building. But the height has been to some degree mitigated by the introduction of a pitched roof, presumably to mitigate the height, and I think it's successfully doing that. I think that the variances are reasonable. The proposal that we have before us is a reasonable addition to the community. I'm pleased to move approval, subject to the planning condition about screening the third floor deck.
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jim Sod. I'm the agent on behalf of the owner of 572 Palmerston Avenue.
I have a question. Could you tell me if the basement suite that's referred to is an existing suite or is it a proposed suite?
It is currently part of the ground floor suite, sir. So it is proposed that the interconnecting stair be removed and that it function as a completely separate and secondary suite.
So then there'd be one in the basement, and then the first floor is not connected to it at all.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question relating to parking. Is there parking available on street?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, there is. It's permitted.
Okay.
parking. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, this one to me is a very straightforward application. I agree with it. I think it meets the 4 tests. The parking, we've heard that there is parking on street. And the area, of knowing the area, I believe there is parking anyway in the area. So I would like to move approval of the application. In my view, it meets the 4 tests.
I'll second.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm present. Very good. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. This is our second round of committee. We had taken very seriously the neighborhood and committee's commentary from the first round and significantly redesigned the house for my family. We went from a three-story down to a 2-story with significantly less GFA overall. The minor variances requested are, in our opinion, quite minor nature with regards to the lot coverage and the parking space within the garage to accommodate the less tight entryway. It's a very straightforward proposal with a flat roof, and that's really all I had to say.
Yes. My name is Beth Snowden, 144 Westlake Avenue. My backyard faces directly to their backyard. My backyard faces west. I have one. Okay, so there's one yard between myself and the new house that's proposed. My concern is the 2-story back coming from the further back into the property, which does affect my backyard as far as a view. I'm going to be looking at a brick wall. My sunlight my view, my privacy with that balcony at the top. I don't like the idea of the balcony looking down. And I didn't write it in the letter, but I'm also maybe concerned that it may bring the property value down of my property, because nobody really wants to look at a brick wall. That's my concerns. I didn't address the first proposal. I didn't see it in the mail. I had an elderly mother that was quite ill at the time, and I must have missed it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Darren Smith. Hello, is that better? Darren Smith, 32 Gatwick Avenue. Okay, so I am in opposition of the lot area coverage insofar as it applies or would be considered to apply to the balcony, which I think is about roughly 5 square meters. I believe the lot coverage variance being requested is about 11. So other than that, that's my position.
I have a question of that last. The issue is relating to lot coverage, or did you say a balcony?
It's the balcony if it's considered as part of the lot coverage, or also as a matter of privacy.
So privacy, because I don't see any variances relating to the balcony, but you're concerned about the privacy of the balcony.
Yes.
Because it does comply with the bylaw. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I am here present. Yeah, no problem. I took into consideration similar comments on the first round, and we had significantly reduced the lot coverage in GFI, GFA, FSI from a previous proposal. It's our understanding that the balcony was not one of the variances that were flagged in the zoning review, but being mindful of that, we're cognizant of the concerns nonetheless, with or without the variance, trying to be a good neighbor. With regards to the property at Westlake, being more than one property away, on a positive note, we're actually north and west of the property. So in terms of access to daylight or sunsets, we should actually have zero impact to that particular property. I appreciate that our rear wall is moving towards the backyard, but neither were building length or FSI a variance on the table. Being cognizant of that, I appreciate the concerns, but we tried our best to kind of keep the building footprint as tight as possible. In so much as we actually made the overall footprint more narrow than it is currently on site to uphold the desired setbacks of the zoning. So we're losing a little bit of our width, and thus the shift to repurpose the space a little bit into the backyard. So that's kind of my only commentary.
I have one question, Madam Chairman. Mr. Gerber, I appreciate the changes that have been made since you were here last. You were before two of us were on this panel, and I think the changes are welcomed and desirable. I do, however, have sympathy with both of the objectors concerned about privacy of the back balcony. Normally, what one would do is impose a condition of screening the balcony. But on a balcony of this size, I'm not sure that that's a very good idea, because I think you get a claustrophobic space. Do you have any suggestions for how to respond to the concerns for the loss of privacy due to the balcony? I think it's a legitimate concern, both behind you and to both properties beside you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand and acknowledge that. I mean, it's interesting that well, there's a number of houses adjacent to the 144 West Lake that have a 2- and 3-story house directly adjacent them to the north and south. So I guess this is just adding to that negative privacy. So I'm not against creating some kind of a screen on the balcony to create that kind of intermediate privacy. It was mostly the idea was to help the master bedroom, but yeah, I mean, we had done our best to not have the balcony size go larger than the variance or larger than the zoning permits, and in our past experience with committee of adjustments for for clients of ours, um, we tried to follow the letter of the land and to follow the zoning bylaw that's in place. And it's not so much that the zoning doesn't permit balconies, it's just, I we want to try to be sympathetic to the neighbors' concerns. Obviously, we're all citizens and we're all neighbors, and we don't plan on going anywhere. So um, so yeah, we actually made the balcony quite a bit smaller than the original concept, with that being as much as someone would love to have a great big patio because it provides some shelter for the yard below, we were sympathetic that we're not going to be hosting large parties on the master bedroom balcony where you'd have more than 2 people kind of parading out there and staring into everyone else's backyards. It's a fairly private space as opposed to a quote unquote more public space within a home.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. So I mean, I'm not sure exactly how that finds its way into the verdict, but I actually think it would be a brilliant idea to incorporate some kind of a vegetated screen, both for the dwellers of the home as well as the neighbors. Creating that privacy. Um, I think that's very reasonable and probably not a bad design idea. There's also I guess if that was the direction or the desired direction, I mean, we can definitely consider the east side because that's closest to the property boundary. On the drawing, it'd be on the right-hand side of the building, that you had on the screen of the rear elevation. Um, it's because it's a fairly constrained size balcony. Putting planters or some kind of vegetation on the south end of the balcony might render the balcony less usable for a lounge chair, but on the east side would be quite easy to accommodate.
I actually think the first objector is, if I'm not mistaken, is to the south. What I personally think might be reasonable is to place a condition that vegetative screening, vegetative privacy screening is to be provided on the balcony, and leave it as vague as that, and to have that be something that can be negotiated with the neighbors. The reason I say that is if we prescribe a specific screen, we risk making that balcony space a very unpleasant space, and that's at odds with the objective of the design, and I think as well as the applicant has indicated, would be at odds with the objective of the neighbors as well. So I personally think providing a vegetative privacy screen on the balcony, on the understanding that that would be negotiated with the neighbors, would be a reasonable condition. You don't actually. I mean, I gathered from the presentations that there's goodwill between the applicant and the neighbors, and listening to the applicant's comments about his respect for the neighbors reinforce that. It seems to me that some level of screening on the east and the south side of the balcony makes sense, and I'm loath to prescribe a particular kind of screen and a particular height at this point for fear that it does more damage than good. So the intention of what I'm exploring is basically just to indicate that we think screening is desirable and assume that the parties in good faith would negotiate an appropriate screen, and that nobody's going to go out and double check it. It's just we're trying to indicate that it was a concern at the time of the hearing, and that we're looking for a solution to be evolved between the applicant and the neighbors.
One of the challenges with vegetative screening, though, sometimes is you don't know if it's always going to live and who's going to like what and what's going to happen. Is there an opportunity to, I would think that for the most part, the balcony would be used for seating, not necessarily, standing up for long periods of time. Are you proposing that the glass be frosted or is it clear?
It's solid. It isn't glass. Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It is glazed.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I mean, I'll be truthfully honest with that level of resolution. I hadn't invested that much thinking into it just yet. But I mean, we're not opposed to a frosted guard.
Okay. In terms any further questions? Ms. Valentini, I can't hear you. I see you talking.
Is that better? I'm unmuted.
Okay, yeah, go ahead now.
I have concerns about putting a guard on the south side. I mean, we often see balconies facing each other's backyards, so I don't have as much concern about privacy and overlook, given that the rear neighbor is so much distance away. I think we do, if we're going to impose screening, need to be specific because while I like to think that neighbors can work together, they often can. It just leaves it difficult if it's open to interpretation, and there's no way to satisfy a condition that's open-ended. So I think if we're going to do screening, we need to say where and what kind of screening and at what height.
I don't have any
screening.
Sorry.
But I just I am not personally too bothered by the imposition of screening because I think the balcony size is small. I am amenable to screening if one of the other members feels it's appropriate, but I think we need to be specific about the height and the location of the screen.
Okay, I'm not, I would agree with Lisa's comments. I'm not actually too concerned about overlock, given that the balcony's off the master bedroom and isn't a huge size and isn't going to be used for parties. But I would propose to address the concerns that the glass be frosted. I think that would be some barrier to the privacy concerns.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Madam Chair? I'd like to move. Okay, having listened to all of the discussions, I think that there's a general agreement that a frosted barrier around the balcony would perhaps address some of the privacy concerns. I think going further than that and adding a higher barrier is problematic, because I think it renders this very small balcony very unpleasant. Based on that, I think that the rest of the application is quite reasonable. I think that the proposal is something that I personally could support. I'd like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 3, and a condition that the balcony barrier wall be frosted glass.
Not Ms. Salerno, but Michael Shirzadfar. I'm the agent on behalf of the homeowner. Michael Shirzadfar. SHIRZADFAR.
I just have one question. What has resulted in the additional variance being required? Was there a change in design, or an issue when it was constructed and this is correcting it?
It was an issue during construction. So initially, when we had done the design, we had previously came out with one design, and then we made the amendments for a committee of adjustment hearing previously. Now, what happened was during construction, the contractor used the wrong set of drawings reflecting this additional 16 inches of height. And that's where the variances now come into play.
Thank you.
I have one further question, Madam Chairman. I noticed that the garage is 2 stories high, and the concern that we've had in the past and that I would have here is that the 2 stories not be used for habitable purposes. If we were to put a condition in that the garage is not to be provided services for habitable purposes, would you have a difficulty with that condition? I don't want to say you shouldn't have plumbing, because you might want to put a sink in there, and that makes sense to me. But by the same token, we don't want you to turn it into another suite.
Correct. We don't have an issue with that. The intention of this space is to be used as storage. So, but yeah, I don't believe we have an issue with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that this application is minor. I think the cumulative nature of the previous application and this still meets the 4 tests. And if there's no other comments from my panel members, I would be prepared to move a motion to approve the application. Oh, yes, and the condition, yes, the condition that this it not be used for living space, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Daryl Rahim here on behalf of the homeowners. No, not at this time.
Madam Chair, this one is, in my view, a simple one, as you stated. They're just simply building over top of the existing footprint in place of the deck. So I see no negative impact.
Lisa, hang on. I can barely make out what she's saying. Can we try turning you it out?
Is that better? Hopefully you don't get background noise because I have children now home. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I normally don't have problems with those headphones. I feel that this is a very straightforward application. They're extending over the existing footprint of the house, over top of what is now a deck. I don't see any detrimental impact associated with this additional space. So my motion is for approval of the application.
Form letters in support from residents at 434, 440, 441, 442, 452.
Hello, Madam Chairman. I'm Trevor Keir from Trevor Keir Design. I'm the agent for the owners of 448 Montrose. The excavation contractor actually came out on the long weekend and met with the neighbors. They came to enough of an agreement, although they're of course still worried. They're excavating very close to their properties. The neighbor to the north that is worried the most does not actually have the addition going up beside their house. We're only underpinning a very small portion of the wall beside them. And it's simply to replace the footing that was chiseled away during some previous renovation. The rest of the excavation is happening beside their backyard. They had a conversation with the excavator about trying their best to stay on the property and not having to excavate over into the next yard and not having to ruin the fence, but that they would replace the fence with an even better fence if that happened.
Madam Chair, I think the application represents minor changes. I don't think that what's being proposed is out of character with what's in the neighborhood. There are numerous properties in the immediate area that have similar characteristics. You know, we'll rely on the goodwill of the applicant to continue discussions with the neighbor. But if there's no other comments from my colleagues, my motion would be to approve the application for those reasons.
Hello, my name is Tyler Walker. I'm the agent for the owners. Okay. My clients love their neighborhood and wish to live there long into the future. The motivation behind this proposal is to expand their house from having 2 bedrooms to 3. This would allow both their children to have their own room. I know this isn't technically relevant, but it gives you a sense of the mindset for creating the proposed design. To that end, we feel the variances being requested meet all the committee's criteria for approval. The proposal is appropriate for the development of the land and building. The general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw is maintained. The general intent and purpose of the city's official plan is maintained, and the variances requested are minor. This position is best reflected on how common the variances being requested are within the community. Permission to have a semi-detached house. Within half a block of my client's property, we found 36 examples of buildings that do not conform to the zoning bylaw clause that requires all dwelling units to reside within a fully detached house, not semi-detached, not row, or not apartment. These 36 examples make up about 20% of all buildings within the area shown on our site map. Front yard site, soft landscaping. Again, within half a block of my client's property, we found 35 examples of houses with less than 50% of their front yard being soft landscaping, most of which had none at all. These 35 examples make up about 26% of all homes within the area of the site map we provided. Further to this, we feel that our position is strengthened by the decision of community planning not to write a staff report with any concerns or conditions regarding our proposal. Finally, in an effort to maintain the quality of the existing urban environment, my clients wished for this design to adhere to the zoning bylaw as much as possible. To that end, our design does not contravene any setback, height, depth, length, density, floor area, or lot coverage zoning bylaw clauses. For these reasons, we feel the committee should approve our proposal. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, we recently found out that my client's attached neighbor at 267 Torrens object to our proposal. In our opinion, the topics outlined in their letter of opposition do not establish justification for the rejection of our proposal. The main points and their main points in our responses are as follows. Parking requirements. Existing parking spaces or lack thereof is unrelated to the variances being requested. Also, our proposed design adheres to all zoning bylaws and their parking requirements. Effects on sunlight. When writing the zoning bylaw, the city determined what was appropriate for all aspects of a house's envelope and massing. To minimize the impact of our design, we were very careful to adhere to the zoning bylaw in terms of setbacks, height, depth, length, density, floor area, and lot coverage. Because of this, we are not requesting any variances related to this point. Further to that, the rear of 267 Torrens faces south, which means any addition would not affect the amount of sunlight it receives until late into the afternoon or evening. Encroachment onto 267 Torrance Avenue. The proposed encroachment does not contravene the zoning bylaw and is not a variance currently being requested. It was our desire to enter into a party wall agreement with the owners of 267 Torrance, which would allow for the extension of the existing shared party wall and its cladding, which would necessarily encroach onto the property of 267 Torrance Avenue. If the owners do not wish to enter into an agreement with my clients, we will respect that decision. The structure. The structure is unrelated to the variances being requested, and it is my understanding that structural engineering does not fall within the domain of the zoning bylaw or by extension the Committee of Adjustment. Having said that, we are happy to discuss any concerns related to the structure of the two houses during the permit process after we have engaged a structural engineer. Noise transmission. Noise transmission is unrelated to the variances being requested, and it is my understanding that sound transmission rating of party walls does not fall within the domain of the zoning bylaw or by extension the Committee of Adjustment. Having said that, we are happy to discuss any noise concerns and their potential solutions during the permit process of this project. Inconvenience of construction. The inconvenience of construction is unrelated to the variances being requested, and it is my understanding that this does not fall within the domain of the zoning bylaw or by extension the Committee of Adjustment. Having said that, we are happy to discuss ways to minimize the inconvenience on 267 Torrance Avenue and its owners for the duration of the construction. Architectural uniformity. Architectural aesthetics are unrelated to the variances being requested, and it is my understanding that this does not fall within the domain of the zoning bylaw or by extension the Committee of Adjustment. Further to that, the houses are not currently uniform on either the front or their back facades, so I don't understand how this applies to 265 and 267 Torrance Avenue. Because of all, okay. I just have to say, because of all of these reasons, we feel that the committee should approve our proposal. Thank you very much.
I am, Madam Chair. I am. We had hoped that we would both speak. I'm so sorry. Okay, that's fine. I don't know if Alana is signed up or not, but what is? Okay. I think if Alana's on the line, she should talk right now, and then I'll follow in.
Hi. Hi there. Yes, I have. Yes, okay. So hi, my name is Ilana. Okay, sure. Good afternoon. My name is Ilana Yakubowski, and I'm the homeowner of 267 Torrance Avenue, so beyond the wall of 265, the other side of the wall. Well, I do understand the need to expand the house. I do think that the concerns I mentioned are, I would appreciate if they can be addressed somehow because of the unique situation of the structure. This is a century-old home that was, according to my realtor, was divided into semi-detached units in the 1980s. Our shared wall is not, it's not very insulating. I can hear most of what goes on the other side of the wall. And it is also quite inclined on an angle as it is, if you look at the document that I submitted, which means basically if you put a pen on the floor of each unit, it would roll all the way toward this shared wall, leading us to believe that we have a mutual structural element within our units. Hence, every structural work that would be done on the other side, we would be very much a part of it. We are very concerned, again, about any structural damage that may result, especially as a result of any excavation work towards enlarging the basement. We have previously suffered from vibration issues when road work was done just, I would say, about 20 meters from our home. And when similar vibration or digging is done just inches away, we are very concerned about this. And by the way, we were willing to agree to not object today in return to our neighbors signing an agreement that they would be basically responsible for any damage that may occur on our side. However, our neighbors have not signed this document, which is why I was not able to cancel my participation here. And the other part of it, yes, the drawings on the ground and the second floor clearly show encroachment beyond our mutual property line, which is something that we unfortunately cannot agree to, being that this is only a 15-foot wide lot, and we cannot afford to lose any more inches to this. I have to say, looking at the drawings, it's quite strange that they are not showing our house at all, because looking at these drawings, you would think that this is a detached home where it is not. And again, if you may look at the elevation, I included it in my letter, but you can see it's I think it's the western elevation, proposed western elevation. Not this one, the other one, sorry, the other side elevation. So you may see that this new, basically this outline, both of our houses on the second floor, the line that shows the second floor of our house is currently the line of the other house as well. The little structure on the first floor is basically a frame structure, which is very small and does not, if you look at the photo that I submitted of the back elevation, the houses right now do conform and end at the same level. This is a 21-foot long extension, which we think would cast, you can see that we have windows here. This extension would be 21 foot away from the existing second floor face of wall, and cast shadow and prevent us from enjoying any afternoon sun, as mentioned. It's also okay. I will let Mr. Higgins speak. I know that some of these issues are probably not subject to committee of adjustments, but I would appreciate some sort of condition or anything to prevent encroachment and to add acoustic insulation to the wall, because the drawings right now, they show very thin wall that did not, it's not quite clear to us how can this be insulated or how can this be even excavated without any shoring or any space left for structural protection. And I would let Mr. Higgins. Can I give the remaining 2 minutes to Mr. Higgins in case I missed anything?
Thank you very much. I don't think I need that much time, actually. Well, all we'd like to know is whether or not the committee, in making their decision, would write into the decision that the addition at the neighboring house at number 265 does not encroach beyond the mutual property line. Because the drawings clearly show that 265's new wall is encroaching onto 267. Well, if you would go to the survey first, you just added on, And enlarge that, please. Okay, you can see at here that the southerly or the lower building is 265. Ilana's house is to the upper section. And you can see the vinyl siding 1-story is 0.12 west of the mutual property line. Okay. Okay, so then if you go to the floor plans that are being proposed as well as the rear elevation, these are all existing. So, okay, so there we go. So you can see clearly there that this is extending up beyond. You can see the line there at the dining room. I'm sorry, I can't use my cursor, but to the upper part of the dining room right there, that's clearly over the mutual property line. And if you go to the second floor plan, you can see that it's clearly over the mutual property line, doesn't need to be. The existing wall of the house is has space between it and the mutual property line. And then when you look at the rear elevation, you'll also see it. Here we go. So it's clearly, you can see that the drawing shows that the 1-story is clearly not over the property line, even though the floor plan does show that. And it shows here the second floor proposed pre-finished metal siding addition is clearly over the property line. So we would ask that we're not opposing the application. Elena does have rightful concerns about construction. However, I agree that is not for this committee's purview, but I would like the committee to note that there is no bylaw that allows one to encroach on another's property.
So would it be caught in the building permit stage? And if there was lack of a party wall agreement, the building permit would not allow for that encroachment? Yeah. So it would be covered in that stage in terms of it wouldn't be permitted without certain circumstances being in place. Even though it's on the drawing, when they went to get permits, it wouldn't be allowed unless all the legal requirements were satisfied. Yeah, that's what I mean. So there's a check in place for that concern that's been expressed by Mr. Higgins should at the building permit stage. Doesn't the committee, it's not necessary for the committee, if it approves this, to attach that as a condition, because the building permit process, for lack of a better word, has that safeguard in its processes of reviewing an application. With that, okay, thank you.
However, there's another variance. The very first variance, or the very first thing, says that any change in use, alterations, or additions to the building requires the permission of the Committee of Adjustment. If you take that clause and combine it with the fact that we've been presented with drawings that show that the building extends onto someone else's property, I think there's a difficulty. Because notwithstanding there's not a specific variance about the wall, the very first section of the variance document indicates that any change of use, alterations or additions, which is what we're looking at, to the building requires the permission of the Committee of Adjustment. So the issue is, do we agree with what's before us? And I think that the appellant has raised a legitimate concern that what we have before us shows construction that is not on the subject site.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. Mr. Walker, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. Hello? Hi. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it was my understanding that, again, this was addressed at the permit stage and not the zoning stage. If I were to have submitted drawings that did not show it crossing the property line and the owners at 267 giving their permission for a party wall permit, we would then not be able to cross the property line anyway. So I'm in a bit of a bind in terms of making these drawings of how to proceed. We had no idea that the owners at 267 wished to oppose our design. We reached out to them in the middle of July, and they never said anything until February 3rd about that, when it was nearly too late. I spoke with Mr. Higgins and the homeowner on February 9th. They never mentioned any opposition. They just said they had concerns, which I'm open to addressing. It didn't seem that these were appropriate to be addressing at the Committee of Adjustment and Zoning level. So I'm sure my clients would be happy to have a condition on this that there will be no crossing of the property line. If that is what if that is what their neighbors wish. It appears that they, under no circumstances, will allow us to cross the property line anyway, so we wouldn't be able to get a party wall permit. So, you know, we will just, if we are allowed, we will move forward without any crossing of the property line.
So is that zoning note then, Madam Secretary Treasurer, sufficient for the purposes of addressing the dealing with the expansion of use under 45.2 in terms of, and the concerns of the neighbor? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's because of the length of the meeting. So are we reasonably confident that approval of this without conditions would not result in the concern that the appellant has about the building going onto their property, onto their property. The applicant indicated that it doesn't look as though they're going to get a party wall agreement. The quote that was just read by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer basically indicates without a party wall agreement, construction can't continue. Am I correct? So is this stalled in the water?
I mean, if we put the condition on, which I think would make the panel members more comfortable, that the addition doesn't encroach beyond the mutual property line, does that not fall in line with what zoning?
Could we put in a condition that says that if the approval of the 45-2 variance is to the satisfaction of the city through the building permit process? Yeah.
My only question with putting on that kind of condition, that it not encroach, I mean, that is a civil matter between the two parties.
Yeah.
Encroachments are usually dealt with civilly, but apart from that, who would confirm that that condition's been satisfied? I mean, they can't get their variance, or they have to show somebody that those conditions have been satisfied. So who's going to confirm it doesn't encroach? So it sounds like to me it would be addressed through the building permit stage. I can't say yes or no it's going to be, but from what I gather from the discussions, that it should be. Without a party wall agreement, I guess the plans need to be revised, is my understanding. But like, I'm not an expert on that field. I don't do building permits, so I can't say. But I just query who's going to sign off on that condition, who's going to say it's been satisfied.
I get your point, and to the point that was made earlier by staff is that if the plans are submitted as attached to this variance and it doesn't meet the condition in the planning review or building permit, they're going to have to revise them so that it doesn't encroach. So it looks after itself whichever way. And if at some point of time there is different discussions and encroachment is palatable, then it doesn't tie anybody's hands the other way either if things change from today until then. So I agree with that. I think we can rely, or have to, we don't have a choice if we're going to approve these, but to rely on the process that we expect has to occur, will occur.
Madam Chairman, as long as we don't make any reference to the plans, the concern I would have is if we refer to the plans in any way, the plans are a problem. So if we don't, I agree with Ms. Hayes. If we have to have confidence that the building process is going to work, but we have to make sure that we don't make any reference to these plans that we have before us today, because they clearly are contrary to what it sounds as though what the applicant would be permitted to build.
Understood, but the plans are still there, so
I am as well, but
the variances, I don't have a problem.
I'm not trying to open the matter back up. I don't know if Mr. Higgins has any other suggestions or solutions since he's recommended the condition, or is it at a turn to open that back up?
I did, and really is a tricky one. I don't have full confidence in the building department, I'm sorry to say, that they would pick up on something as nuanced as this. I know my client is, not my client, Alana works for me. She's a very sweet young lady, and Mr. Taylor did say that there was no response. Well, Alana's had very major health issues and felt in no way able to respond to something that she was greatly fearing in terms of what this addition would do to her or her fairly rickety house that she's bought with great pride and she wants to protect. It's as simple as that. We did talk at some length with Mr. Taylor. We certainly didn't object to the variances, but we did clearly say that you can't just go ahead and draw a plan encroaching without even talking to the adjacent neighbor, immediately adjacent neighbor. And his point, one of his points was, well, the property line's on a little bit of an angle, and we want to be able to clad with insulation to meet the new building code. None of that works for us. It's easy enough to just pull the wall in slightly. The existing wall is in from the property line. It could be clad for insulation without going over the property line. And clearly the drawings show an encroachment that had never been okayed or discussed. So Alana's never been to the committee before. I think you all know that I've been many, many times. So my position is I don't know about the building department. We just thought a reference to the plans made sense. However, I certainly understand your comments that referring to the plans that don't work is likely to get somebody into hot water. So maybe this should be deferred. Maybe, I'm sorry to have taken so long, but maybe it should be deferred and let Mr. Taylor come back with drawings that clearly show no encroachment.
May I ask, Madam Chair, I'd like to just ask one further question of the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Could we approve with a proviso that says provided that the rear, whatever direction is, wall does not encroach over the property line? Just something simply as that at least gets us away from saying we've approved the plans that were submitted. Can we make a general statement like that? I don't know, but but there must be some, one would hope there's some way that we can make the thought clear.
The permission is to enlarge the second. panel members.
I'm personally in favor of the phrasing that was just suggested by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, because I keep going back to the last line of the first paragraph that says any change of use, alterations or additions have to be approved by us. So we're saying that the change in use is conditional upon the second story not extending beyond the property line, which may not be 100%, may not be the best way, but I can't think of another way of doing it. And I'm uncomfortable with the drawing that shows a building extending beyond the property line and just letting it pass, because down the road, somebody could rightly say, but the drawings that were before the Committee of Adjustment clearly showed that the building went beyond the property line, and they still approved the variances.
So is that a satisfactory answer versus deferring to have a new drawing submitted and then have the item come back? Yeah, yeah, me too. But is that satisfactory in terms of clear enough?
Hello? Hello, yes, I'm here. I'm happy with that. Yes, that is correct.
Any further comments, or can we move forward with the decision now?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to, unless my colleagues have still got concerns that we haven't addressed, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to that condition. I think that that's a reasonable attempt to address the legitimate concerns of the adjacent owner. And it appears that it addresses that concern and would overcome the encroachment concerns that she quite rightly had. On that basis, I'd like to move approval of the application without any other conditions.
Alrighty, do I have a second?
Oh, hello.
A very good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Victor Rosa. Um,
No,
No, anybody have any questions?
no.
Could you please, for my clarity, define the item through forestry that they wish to control, being that there's a front yard parking pad on this particular site? I hope it doesn't pertain to planting a tree. Very good. I can deal with that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take it into committee.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move approval of this very minor application subject to forestry number 1. I don't believe that it initiates any problems for the community or the city, and it clearly meets the 4 tests.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Thank you for your time, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Paul Santaguida, 106 Holland Park Avenue.
Have questions, anybody?
I have one question to the applicant. Have you had any discussions with your neighbors about the deck and the balcony and any screening that might be required for their privacy?
Thanks for the question. I have discussed the deck with one of my neighbors. In fact, they have identical decks. So we'll be building an identical deck to what they have. With respect to screening, we haven't discussed screening in particular, just the deck is in general.
Fine, thank you.
Any further questions?
Sorry about that. Just one question. So the size of the deck you're proposing is common or exists in the neighborhood? Is your neighbor's deck the same size as is that what you're saying?
Exactly right. My neighbor to the left of me and my neighbor to the right of me have essentially the same deck, same dimensions.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I think that this application is minor. There is precedent for this size of variance in other properties in the neighborhood, as the applicant has said on both sides of their property. So having said that, I believe it meets the 4 tests, and I would recommend approval if my colleagues have no further comment.
Hi, speaking. Oh, yes.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. Correct. Client does not oppose the request for deferral.
It is me. Yes, we are. Okay.
Yeah, I will consult with the homeowner and we will do so.
Madam Chairman, I think the deferral is a reasonable request. It sounds as though what we have before us is not a complete application. It gives the opportunity to the applicant to clarify what actually he's requesting. And so on that basis, I'd like to move the deferral.
About.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair and the members of the committee. My name is Andrew Golovna, and the address is 701 Willard Avenue.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on then. Hello, hi. Yes, I am. Sorry about that. There's been some confusion about who's been registered to speak on this matter. We're just trying to get some clarification, but I'm glad that I'm on now. So, good afternoon. My name is Tay Rook. I'm the planner for the owners of the property at 485 Atlas Avenue. The proposal today before you is for a two-story detached house with an integral garage, and there are variances related to side yard setbacks, to the porch, to the dwelling, and to the rear deck as well. There were presentation slides that were submitted, and they were submitted late because I was retained on the day after the deadline was due, and I'm hoping that the committee members could see that presentation slides. And what it does show is that in the area context map, there are majority of the houses in the area have side yard setbacks that are less than 1.2 meters in size. And what you find out throughout Atlas, and these are the dwellings, and the planning staff had concerns of the fact that the proposal has side yard variances for the principal building on both sides. And what it shows is on Atlas Avenue on 461B, 461, 362, 360, 356, 350, 348, 346, 344, 342, 338, 332, 330, 328. These are all dwellings within the area, in the immediate area of the subject site that have side yard setbacks less than 1.2 meters. In addition to that, there was correspondence received by the neighbor to the north at 487, indicating they had concerns with the side yard setback at 0.46 of a meter. And what you note is if you refer to the site plan, the existing dwelling itself is closer to the dwelling, closer to the lot line than what is being proposed. It's at approximately 0.2 of a meter. And we're increasing that side yard setback on the north side to 0.46. Furthermore, what you'll note is that there is a variance related to this rear deck in terms of height, where it says that the portion of the deck that encroaches beyond the rear wall by 2.5 meters is subject to a height variance. So what that shows is that if you look on the site plan, you'll note that there is an indent on the left-hand side. Right, there's an indent on the left-hand side. So that portion where that indent occurs is the portion of the deck that requires this height variance. And you'll also note that the setback for that portion of the deck that's indented is approximately 2.1 meters. So it's set back well far back from the adjacent neighbor to the north. And this was done consciously to ensure that there was any, to provide some separation buffer and distance between the two properties. Once again, the context of the neighborhood or the pattern of development in the neighborhood is one in which where you have existing and approved dwellings that have side yard setbacks that are less than the 1.2 meter requirement on one side and also on both sides. And you'll also note that this proposal doesn't require any variances related to building length, height, FSI, or front or rear yard setbacks. There is a small side yard setback variance being sought on the south side, approximately 29 centimeters worth. It's at 0.91 of a meter, whereas 1.2 meters is required. And once again, on the north side, the side yard setback has been increased from the existing condition. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Yes. Yes, we did speak with planning staff, and there's clearly examples of existing dwellings that have reduced side yard setbacks on both sides, and those are the addresses that I listed off to you earlier. What the planning department had done was just looked at the C of A decisions for the past 10 years in the area. And what they found was there was a small number, but I'm sure that the committee has visited the site and the area. What you find is, and if you refer to my area context map on the presentation slides, what you find is that there's plenty of homes, not just on Atlas, but also on Winnett, which is the street right to the east, and also along Arlington Avenue, which is a street, second street to the east, and also across the street, which is a street called Belvedere, which runs east-west, that has reduced side yards that is less than 1.2 meters in width.
Can you just, Mr. Ruck, can you just go through the addresses very quickly? I was trying to figure out which one's in Atlas. I don't have your presentation materials, so I don't have the benefit of that, but are they within this block? Because when, doing a survey of the street, it looks like they have pretty, consistent side yard setbacks. So I'm thinking they're outside that vicinity, but if you could just mention those addresses again, please.
If you go further south of Duran Avenue on Atlas, you have also 362, 360, 356, 350, 348, 346, 344, 342, 338, 332, 330, 328, 326, 322, 318, and 314. And if you look immediately across the street from the subject site, you'll note that there's a southeast-west street that runs east-west that ends at Atlas Avenue. That's Belvedere. And for the dwellings from 2 to 12, both singles and semis have side yard setbacks less than 1.2 meters. And also if you go along, and also if you go to 472 Atlas as well, 468, 480, these are all examples, and actually 234, which is on Ava, but that's just a little bit to the north. These are well within the range, within steps of the subject site. And this proposal is no way overdevelopment of the site. Like I said, there's no GFA variances, there's no length variances, there's no height variances. This is a house that's been deployed appropriately on the site. It's been done consciously to ensure that we don't go the additional 17, go beyond the 17 meters, and also respect the height, because there is a grade that occurs along Atlas Avenue from the north to the south. The elevation lowers a little bit. And as a result of that, we wanted to be ensured that we respected the height configurations as well. So this is a very compatible proposal given what's existing in the neighborhood, and in no way would it be impactful towards the streetscape.
I have a question for you. For the examples that you've provided, are those two-story homes or one-story homes currently?
They're a combination of 1- and 2-story homes.
So I didn't catch the address when I was looking, but there's a new build, a relatively new build south on the same side of the street.
Yes.
It seems to have maintained a decent sized southerly side yard. Do you know what the side yard is on that relatively new build?
It's close to 1.2. I can't be exact, but it is close to 1.2 meters. But you'll also note that the subject site, in terms of lot width, is slightly smaller than the other lots along this area within the street itself, and that is because of the curvature or the curve of Atlas Avenue at that point, and that creates a bit of a pinch point on the subject site. So what you find is along Atlas Avenue on both the east and west sides is a differences in terms of lot frontages in the area. So there are homes that are wider, there are homes that are 30 footers, 35 footers, even 40 footers in that area. And what this is basically attributed to the fact that we have a variance related to specifically on the south side at 0.91 of a meter to accommodate for a modest sized home given within this area. And like I said, this is a home that fits within terms of GFA, complies with GFA height and length, and complies with both front and rear yard setbacks. We have a small variance related to the south side yard at 29 centimeters at 0.91 of a meter, whereas 1.2. And once again, on the north side, you'll see if on the pictures itself, that on the north side, the existing dwelling is almost on top of the lot, on the side lot line. It's at approximately 0.2 of a meter, and we're increasing that setback to 0.46.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, good afternoon. My name is Ekaterina Tropanina. I'm a representative of 487 Atlas Avenue owner, which is on the north side. Yep. So in principle, our main concern is that the setbacks for a newly constructed dwelling is being reduced from 1.2 meters to 46 centimeters, which is in nature cannot seem to be minor. This reduction is more than 60%. So talking and listening to the applicant, have been talking about the properties which are not maintaining same setbacks. Majority of those properties either not on the same street or those are the older bungalows, which has been built prior to a current zoning. And therefore, if one of those zonings, one of those bungalows would decide to reconstruct a two-story building or any other variation, they will have to obey the new zoning bylaws, which 1.2 meter setbacks. So taking into account that the setback is going to be reduced to 46 centimeters, will create many more other implications, such as fire access if the neighbors will put up the fences. So maybe the fences are not going to be allowed now. And this case is going to be a precedence case for any other new construction on the street. So far on the street majority is older structures, and eventually Toronto is being rebuilt. So this neighborhood is going to be changed according to this precedence case, which is 46 centimeters one side setback and 90 centimeters the other one. The other thing is that we do understand from the survey that the width of the subject property is approximately, not actually approximately, I have both surveys, 485 and 487, and the change in the width of the lot is 12%. So taking that into account, he should be able to reduce the setbacks by the same amount, according to the Toronto official plan of the neighborhood. If the lot is a different nature or is a different shape, it's allowed to reduce setbacks proportionally. So taking 12% into consideration, the maximum setback should be, the minimum setback should be 1 meter, 6 centimeters. I guess in principle that is, in general, reducing for such a small number the setback will influence a certain, to create certain problems such as fire access, firefighter access, drainage from the roof, foundation shoring during new construction, and a lot of other issues, as well as the grading. I'm not really sure how the grading is going to be done on 46 centimeters adjacent to the 17-meter long wall of the house. I guess, in short, that's all, and thank you for your attention.
Yes, I'm here. Sure. There was questions or comments regards to foundation, grading, fire access, and drainage. all of which will be dealt with through the building permit process. As the committee is well aware, any drainage has to occur on the property, can't drain onto adjacent properties, fire access and foundations, all of which would be reviewed by the building department staff. So that would be dealt with at that point in time. In terms of character of the neighborhood, character of the neighborhood is determined by a couple ways. One is what's physically existing on the ground today within the immediate neighborhood, and two, what's been approved in the area. So the agent for 487 mentioned that there are existing homes that were predating the bylaw that results in these reduced side yard setbacks, but I would submit to the committee that contributes to the existing and physical character of the neighborhood, and that what makes up the neighborhood today. So that in itself would indicate from a planning perspective that having reduced side yard setbacks either on one side or on both sides still maintains the intent and purpose of the stability in terms of stability, maintaining the stability of the neighborhood, which this proposal does. This is a house that is in no way large within the area context. Like I said, it complies with all of the physical standards such as building length, FSI, height, front and rear yard setbacks. We are speaking of 2 side yard setbacks in principle that are of major concern. And once again, on the north side, we're increasing the existing side yard setback to 0.46, where it's approximately 0.2. And also at the same time, from a both quantitative and qualitative perspective, on the south side, we're seeking a variance of 29 centimeters. And I would submit to the committee that from a streetscape perspective, this would be somewhat indiscernible, and also at the same time, it would not impact or destabilize the streetscape or the neighborhood.
Although they're improving the side yard condition on the north side, the south side, I don't see anything on that section of the street that appears, from my review, that it's going to be less than 3 feet. And I think with the, I'm not saying that the house is huge, but in terms of the lot configuration, it would almost appear to be lot line to lot line, and I don't see that as the prevailing on that stretch of the street unless I've missed something.
I tend to agree with Ms. Hayes' comments in terms of that stretch. I mean, you've got to look at the context of the immediate neighborhood as well. And in that stretch, there tends to be, or there are, driveways which buffer between the houses. And the introduction of, while one side is getting better, if we see this pattern or this shift where all these properties get redeveloped so that all the side yard setbacks are changed, it's going to completely change that stretch. And I think the reduction on the other side, with the introduction of the reduction of the side yard setback will not be in keeping with what is currently there in terms of the setbacks and the lot pattern. And it is a 2-story house, so that will also have an impact in terms of massing. I'm not suggesting it's a giant house either, but it will, with the setbacks. I mean, these seem to be in this stretch very small houses and smaller lots. So I think the setback will have, well, number-wise, it doesn't look like it. I think it will have an impact.
Anything to add?
My concern is with the precedent that this would set. I appreciate much of what the applicant has said, but similar to my colleagues, I'm concerned that with these narrower setbacks, as redevelopment occurs down the street, the character of the street is going to change and change dramatically. Because as soon as one application is approved with one of these minor setbacks, we know that all the subsequent applications will try and reflect that. So I have some concerns with the setbacks relative to the precedent they're setting in it. And in that regard, I tend to favor the planning department report.
I tend to echo concerns, although a lot of examples were given, they don't appear to be in the
I'll move a motion. Madam Chair, would move a motion to refuse the application, as I don't believe that the proposed variances as presented would maintain the character of the area and therefore not meet the provisions of the official plan.
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
I hear a lot of background noise. Papers anywhere?
No.
Okay. Presentation? Or...
No.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. There's a memo here from the planning department indicating that they have a concern with the platform and indicating that they were going to file a report about that. We didn't, and to the best of my knowledge, we didn't get a report. I'm wondering if anybody knows what the concern is. Does the applicant, have you had conversations with planning that you can enlighten us?
I can actually answer that too.
Yes, actually, we work with planning department because the platform was bigger and we reduced it. After that conversation, they said like they fine like with the size of balcony on second floor. About this item, I'm not really clear, but if it's like requested by name, it can be provided.
Is there a screen proposed?
Mr. Golovnia, is there a screening proposed in right now?
Yeah. 1 second. No, actually, it wasn't proposed. So, but yeah, we okay like with that condition, like if the screening should be provided, like we find to provide screening 1.2 meters or frosted glass, like you'll see like what will work better with our design.
Glass, no higher than 1.2 meters.
That's fine, thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't have a concern with respect to the variances as submitted. The side yard variance at first glance gave me a little pause, but in looking at the plans, it's for the bump out in the kitchen. It doesn't run the full length of the dwelling. So the impact of that is reasonable. With planning's recent comments with respect to the 5.4 square meter balcony, and then with privacy screening no higher than 1.2, I don't find the FSI to be unreasonable, and I think the application would meet the 4 tests, and I'd be prepared to make a motion if my colleagues have no further comment. Okay, so I will move that motion then for approval of the application, subject to the condition of planning that privacy screening be installed on the balcony no higher than 1.2 meters. Okay, so opaque.
Would you accept?
Right, do I have a seconder?
Could we suggest a friendly amendment? If we say not higher than 1.2 meters, then in fact a privacy screen of 3 inches applies. So could we say that it's to be 1.2 meters of frosted glass?
Sure, 1.2 meters.
1.2 meters.
Hello? What the heck? Somebody just called me from WebEx. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, again. Hello? 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 Yes, hi. Okay, that's perfect. I can. Yes. Arlene Beaumont. I work for Bill Outred, and Mr. Outred is not able to be here because the meeting has gone so long. He had a previous commitment. I don't think so.
Madam Chair, this one is very straightforward. It's seeking a small reduction in front yard landscaping in order to allow for the circular driveway. So I think the reduction is very minimal in this case. There's plenty of front yard landscaping that'll still be maintained. So I think this meets the 4 tests, and I'm in support of this application. And unless my colleagues have any questions, I'm prepared to bring a motion forward for approval.
I agree, and I would second any motion of approval.
All right, and
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Ida Evangelista. On behalf of Doctors Bat, the owners of 96 Belsize. Absolutely. So this application received a deferral on September 26th to allow the owners, Doctors Bat, the opportunity to make changes to the application after meeting with neighbors. They felt that the addition that was previously proposed was very boxy and, you know, could create some impact on their property. So that said, after meeting with the neighbors on Belsize and Servington, and then a subsequent meeting in the yard of number 94 with Catherine, Stewart, and Dora, owners of 94 and 100, through their suggestion, we were asked to maintain the current roof line and add dormers, of which we did do. I was then asked to deal with their representative, Mr. Mills, who requested further changes, i.e. stepping back to third floor even further, notching the corners, and a smaller balcony. So all of which we did happily, as the Bats wanted to continue a neighborly relationship, as this is their forever home. And furthermore, an MOU was also signed to solidify the neighborly relationship. So now I'm somewhat perplexed as to why now certain neighbors are in opposition. The zoning review and plans were sent and shared in March and again in November. The variances were removed and reduced, and I would like to add, planning staff have no objections. So what are we asking for? We're asking for an additional 73.86 square meters. The Bats have 2 children and preparing a multi-generational home to care for their elderly parents. And the reason why they require the additional 73.86 is under the circumstances, now more and more people are starting to work from home, as is this situation. The current footprint on the main floor will remain. The front elevation will remain. The rear elevation will remain. We are adding on top of the 1-story addition that currently exists, and we are adding additional floor space in the on the 3rd floor. So our main wall height, we have a main wall height, but it's been taken to the top of the dormer. However, if you look at the front elevation, the main wall height is 6.50. If you refer to page 2 of my submission. The side yard setbacks, it's existing. As I mentioned, the footprint remains the same. Nothing is changing. The FSI, yes, the FSI, which, you know, many of the letters do state that it's high, but I would like to add that the FSI also includes the 1st-story front bay window, which extends into the footing, the 3rd floor attic dormer enlargement, and the front porch. That's all included in the FSI. But we're asking, as I mentioned, we're asking for an additional 73 square meters. This type of regeneration proposal is in keeping with the context and the physical characteristics of the neighborhood. There's a wide variety of footprints, lot sizes, undulating streetscapes with 2- and 3-story homes. This development reflects what already exists and has characteristics of other homes in the area and will not destabilize the neighborhood. The proposed variances does respect the plan context and existing built form in the area. It is my respectful opinion that the additional living space that Drs. Venkat and Mamath are requesting will not be imposing to the neighborhood. And I respectfully submit this application does meet the 4 tests. The FSI without the porch and the bay window is approximately, 1 second, I will tell you, because right now, as it is today existing, it's 0.73. Okay, so without the porch and the bay window, it will be approximately on the main floor 0.36. I can do a quick calculation while opposition is speaking.
Yes, we are here. One of us is going to speak. It's Catherine Beatty, 94 Belsize Drive, but we would prefer that Al Keevy present his information first, if that's all right with the committee.
Yes, I am. Okay. Yes, and I have a slideshow. I'm asking if the technician could bring it up, perhaps at slide number. Yes, my name is Al Keevy. I live at 427 Belsize Drive. I'm a member of South Eglinton Ratepayers and Residents Association, and I'm representing the association here today. Page 3, if we can. I've learned that page skipping can actually take minutes off my presentation. I'll try and be short today if I can. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yes, I first should say that I live in close proximity to this property, and it is my forever neighborhood. So it's a neighborhood I take great pride in. I assisted residents at the OMB at 111 Belsize and 116 Belsize, so very familiar with the neighborhood. The first slide on slide 3 points out to my determination of what the nearby neighborhood or nearby properties are. I've used for my evaluation the notification circle. That's approximately a 60 meter circumference. Next slide, please. The next slide shows a key element of the official plan. This is new. The official plan's been in place for a couple of years now. And this is an issue that often comes up at TLAB. I attend many TLAB sessions. It speaks to, this sentence is critical, that the proposed development should fit the neighborhood in terms of prevailing height, density, and nearby residential properties. Prevailing under the new official plan means most frequently occurring. It does not mean the largest or the most recently approved. Density means floor space index. That's critical, I think, here today. This is our chief complaint. And nearby means in close proximity. So if you reflect on my nearby properties circle, I'm doing an evaluation of this proposal with respect to nearby properties. So if we can go to the next chart, please, number 5. What I've done here is I've gone back to available sources of data, including impact, city data, application data as well. The average for this set of homes, and I've included the 2 properties in Servington on the back, is a density of 0.49. So it's not even close to the regulation with respect to new builds at 0.60 or renovated properties at 0.69. Next slide, please. What I've done here is I've graphed the floor space index in just a bar chart just to show a curious aspect of 96. Today, as it sits in this group of properties, it has the highest FSI. It is essentially the largest for its lot in this selection of houses. Most lot sizes are approximately equivalent. So really what it does say is that this is a pretty big house. The proposed addition, I've marked it in red, extends what they've got today. Is they're making a big house much bigger. I've tried to do a little bit of bell curving on the side, so it's not even close to the average. It's not even close to 1 deviation from the average. It's well beyond what we might determine as normal or prevailing character for density in this group of houses. Next slide, please. This slide shows, this is my rendering. I'm not an architect. I'm a professional engineer, 35 years. I'm retired. But this, I believe, is a pretty good rendering of the adjacent property. It's Dora's property at 100 Belsize Drive. It has an FSI of 0.44. That's pretty close to the average for the street. So what you can see behind the property, the blue property is the elevation drawing for 96 Belsize Drive. It's coming in at FSI of 0.98. What this chart shows is by any lay interpretation, the height, the mass, the scale, and the density of the proposed property is much larger. It's just not. This chart actually is a very graphic demonstration that what we have here is a fairly large building for this neighborhood. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass by this. This was just my reflection on some things that might be sensible in coming back. This is we've already had one deferral. I'm not sure if another one's appropriate. Next slide, please. This proposed dwelling fails to meet the tests. It fails to meet the test of the official plan 4.1.5C. It fails the density bylaw. It's not even close. We have 8 letters of opposition. It's not clearly desirable. We have no letters of support, quite unusual. It fails the minor variance test. It's not even close to the regulation. It's not even close to what is normal for this neighborhood. I would propose that this application should be refused in its entirety. That's the end of my presentation. I'd like to ask the technician if he could move back to slide 7. I believe that Dora has asked that be visible during her presentation, if we could. Thank you. No, I was asked to participate about 2 weeks ago. Dora gave me a call, and I was only pleased to assist. Generally, Sarah stands back from. We love it when neighbors work together and they can come up with a solution that meets the needs of all parties. We try not to mediate. We do get involved if those things fail. This is, I would say, I'm presenting my view of this proposed application independent of any consideration of consultations that may have taken place or may have failed to result. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for listening to us. We have lived in our home at 94 Belsize for almost 10 years and chose this neighborhood specifically because it has not been invaded by the overbuilt massive monster homes like in some other areas. We are directly beside the applicant's home to the west. We love our very private and landscaped backyard. In fact, it was a major selling point for us when we bought the house. The proposed new addition of 3 stories at 96 Belsize will severely block the light coming into our yard, our home, and completely dwarf our house. A light shadow study was requested by us in 2019 and was never done by the applicants. We have seen 2 sun shadow images that suggest that there will be an adverse impact on our property. The 3rd floor balcony on 96 Belsize will look directly into our backyard, negating our privacy. Our lot is within inches of the existing 1st floor extension, and adding 2 stories will be like living beside a solid wall of an apartment building. This is already a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home. The proposed renovations at 96 Belsize do not comply by virtue of height, mass, scale, and density on our street. The owners of 96 Belsize have not applied for minor variances, but major ones that do not fit in with the character of our neighborhood of primarily two-story homes, and it grossly exceeds what is allowed. As the objection filed by Sarah shows, the proposed FSI density of 0.98 is well over the allowed density and will dwarf the neighboring homes as well, ours specifically, and 100 Belsize to the east. We all have the right to enjoy our neighborhood, and a two-story addition within building code limits is certainly acceptable. But this three-story excessive addition renovation could encourage undesirable development to our neighborhood setting going forward. The official plan 3.1.2 says, our personal enjoyment of our streets and open spaces depends largely on the visual quality, activity, comfortable environment, and perception of safety in those spaces. We ask the panel to consider why the renovation plans of one household should put this personal enjoyment of so many other individual households in our neighborhood in jeopardy, and for the panel to give great weight to our collective expressed concerns and reasons as stated in all of the 8 letters you have received in objection. We implore the panel, please do not support this submission. Thank you for your time. Well, we objected to the size of the project from the very beginning, and its design and outset in 2019. And the immediate neighbors worked together to discuss possible changes with the applicants. But we were no longer able to fully understand the proposal until we received the variance notice, which we only just received. So dropping from an FSI of 1.03 to 0.98 is not significant attempt to reduce the overall size of their plans. No, we did not.
Yes, I am. Yes, my name is Theodora Agiotis, and I am at 100 Belsize Drive. And if I can ask you to initially pull up the first slide of Ida's presentation, and then afterwards, slide 7 from Al's presentation. Yeah, the first slide of, oh, is that the first slide? Sorry, it's the slide with that one. There we go. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So my family has lived on this property for over 40 years. This is our forever home. It has been our forever home for multiple generations. And we are not planning on going anywhere. So obviously we are very passionate about this, as well as the other 8 objection letters that you've received. So as I was preparing for this meeting, I did look up the files and noticed that there were 8 letters of objection, including 4 from immediate neighbors. That says a lot. And I noticed that they all were saying the same thing. We all feel that that sort of density for a single family home, it does not fit the characteristics of our neighborhood. And then now with Ida's picture right here, this shows a perfect example. 96 is the middle house. I'm on the right, Stuart and Catherine are on the left. You can already see the height is much bigger than our homes. And when you want to make the third floor practically flat roof addition, that is going to dwarf our homes. And these aren't small homes. These aren't very tiny homes that they need all this extra room. These are already big homes that they are making extremely large. So I would like to point out that the objection letter that I read from 131 Belsize, they point out that this home actually had an addition several years ago, which brought it to the existing FSI of 73. That addition made it the largest FSI for a single family property in the immediate neighborhood. And I say this single family property because in Ida's presentation, she points out a bunch of addresses that have 3rd-story dormers and things like that. Well, yeah, did you know the 135 though that she has in her photo, that's a duplex. That is not a single family home. If you could please go to, yeah, no, you can go to that slide with Ida's image. Scroll down, right there. You see the big roof? That's a duplex. You can't compare apples to oranges. So if you could please go to Mr. Keeby's slide number 7, please. Yeah, so the image of my house, when I saw this, I was very overwhelmed. And I actually went outside to take a look, like, is the ceiling of my 2nd floor really not matched up to their 2nd floor? And then I realized that's actually a very good representation. I know Mr. Keeby said he's not an architect, but I have to give him praise. That was a very good representation, and it shocked me. So imagine what that's going to feel like in real life. And you can kind of see the shadow line of where their existing home is with the addition that they had several years ago. It kind of chopped the home a little bit, so it was a little smaller. Again, still a very large home. So not only will this size encourage other large developments in the area, this extreme 3-story addition will be overpowering right next to us and will cast a large shadow over my property as well as 94 Belsize Drive. This will take away from our enjoyment of our backyard, and my toddler will be losing out on valuable sun exposure. On a side note, as Catherine mentioned, they actually told us they were going to provide a shadow survey, but no, one was never completed, and we asked a few times. We're also concerned about privacy with the addition of a 3rd floor rear balcony. How would you feel if your daughter is running through a sprinkler on a hot summer day, if people are sitting there enjoying, you know, a cup of coffee or a glass of wine on the 3rd floor? They're already peering into our backyards from windows, which we all can see in people's backyard from windows. But when you have a 3rd floor balcony, not to mention that 3rd floor balcony peers right into the rear neighbor's bedroom because the rear neighbors are actually on a hill. So that's a whole other issue. So I would like to also rebut to Ida's comment about the MOU. Yes, we with 94 Belsize Drive had created a good neighbor MOU to have a plan if any issues were to arise during the constructions, such as we'll need access to our garbage bins, etc. By no means was that an acceptance of the actual renovation plans. So I ask the panel to consider these very valid objections to the size of this home and refuse this application. Thank you for your time.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here. Just sorry, 1 second. Sorry. Yes, but I would like to add that I wasn't able to get a hold of the architect. So what I did was I removed the calculation of the 2 dormers, the bay window, the front porch, and I come to a calculation of about 0.79, okay? So the porch, the bay window, and the dormers, okay? All right, so now, there was a picture that was I will. I will, Madam Chair. I will. Okay. So there was a picture put up of the subject property. So you take a look at number 96 Belsize. Okay. Nothing's changing. Absolutely nothing's changing. That house, as you see it in front of you, that remains. We're adding, and I would like to state that our length is 16.41 on the first floor and on the second floor, and it's 11.94 on the third floor. And to the small pop out at the back, just to have like a little area, so Dr. Back can have her in-room office. That takes us to approximately 12.85. Okay, so with respect, I reviewed and I looked at every single house that was used in Sarah's materials, the density of the nearby properties. So, and to speak to Dora at number 100, about apples to oranges. Well, let's compare apples to apples, okay? Because what I'm looking at is the densities of the nearby properties. This is apples to oranges right here. These are all two-story homes. If you look at my pictures, you'll see that the Bats have a third story. And not only do they have a third story, but I've taken pictures from their third story. I've included them in my submission, and you'll see that the area is heavily treed. And I may add that when we met, yes, in the original submission, because the original addition was quite boxy, right? Because, the third floor, we were going to add an additional 37.74 back in 2019, but we've cut it right back. We've cut it right back. We notched out the sides. We removed the balcony variance because, they are very private people. And, they are doctors. They are now currently, because of COVID, working at home. They do spend a lot of time. The balcony that's there right now is not a balcony where you can sit out and enjoy and, entertain. It's a small balcony. There's no variance for the balcony. This is their forever home also. They want to be part of this neighborhood. They went to great lengths trying to work with the neighbors. And I would like to add that we made all the changes in March. We provided the drawings, and I have emails with everybody copied on the emails with the zoning review and the plans. So, let's just all be honest and let's be respectful of all the neighbors. Everybody wants to live together and everybody wants to be neighborly. When you walk out the door, you want to at least be able to give a wave to one another. So now let's go to the rendering that was provided by Sarah. So, nearby properties, you'll see the footprint matches what exists in the area. We're not adding to it. We can have a two-story home. We are within our length. Let's move on to the page, I guess it's number 7, the height, mass, scale, and density. I respectfully submit that's not accurate. That's not accurate at all because our roof line is not changing. Our roof line is exactly the same as what it is right now. We've stepped back the third floor substantially. We are adding to the second floor. Yes, that is correct. And our FSI, well, this is an older home. There's many parts of it that is included in the FSI, as I previously mentioned. And I would also like to bring to your attention, number 135 Belsize. Yes, it was included. It's a 3-story home. It's context of the neighborhood. There are 3 stories in this neighborhood, which live, I may add, harmoniously with the 2 stories in the neighborhood. We're not asking, I don't believe that what the Bats are asking for is egregious. They're asking for an additional 73 square meters to what they currently have. And, this too will be their forever home. And this too is something that, they require. They have 2 small children. They have aging parents. And as we know, if anything, this whole situation has opened up many eyes. So a lot of us want to have our parents in our home so that, you know, we can keep an eye on them. So, and we also want to create additional space for our children and for our home offices. So, you know, I respectfully submit that what the neighbors have stated is incorrect. The reason why the sun shadow study wasn't created was because we stepped back that third floor substantially from what we had proposed. And from March of 2020 to today, February 17th, when I have reached out to them many, many times, there was many opportunities where we could have sat down and have a thorough discussion, and I could have explained why we were asking what we were asking for. So, you know, overlook goes both ways, right? As I mentioned, they're very private. We have the homes on Servington, they're much higher than us. There's like a 2-meter grade difference. So if privacy, they're looking down on us. They're looking down on 94 and 100 and 92 and 37 Wilford, right? So in closing, Madam Chair, I respectfully submit that what you have in front of you is respectful within the context, the immediate context of the neighborhood. You know, it's characteristic what exists. And I respectfully submit that the Bats are not asking for anything egregious. They're just asking for additional living space for their family and themselves.
Do you have any questions?
I do. Ms. Evangelista, could you either refer to your front elevation or the one that was just up, the one that Sarah brought with the height, scale, and density drawn? I want to clarify variance number 1.
Variance number one. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
1 second.
The existing zoning bylaw requires that the front and rear exterior main wall be 7 feet, and you currently comply with that. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
So in fact, the height of the front and the back elevation is measured just to that 7-meter dotted line, which is the bottom of the eave. So the pitched roof is not included in the height.
No, we have no overall height variance because it remains. It's not changing.
Well, no, you do have a height variance. You're asking for 9.14 meters.
Right through you, Madam Chair. Sir, that 9.14 meters, the interpretation of the zoning examiner, they've taken it to the dormer and they've considered it at the rear. And I had
That's what I wanted to clarify, that the existing house is deemed to be 7 meters high, but it doesn't include the pitched roof. So it measures from the grade to the eave line. The 9.14, which is the increase in height, which is governed by requested variance number 1, is just the projected dormer, so that the new height is measured to the top of the projected dormer.
That is correct.
So in fact, the difference in height between those two houses that are in the drawing before, could you put the drawing back on again that was just on there? That one. So the difference in height between those two houses already exists, visual height, in that pitched roof that's higher actually exists, and the addition is only that projected dormer, and there's one on the other side as well. Am I correct in interpreting that in that way?
Yes, that is correct. It is only related to the dormer.
have a question. Are the dormers visible from the street? Will the dormers be visible from the street? Could I see that drawing?
If we refer to, through you, Madam Chair, you will see the pop out of the dormer on the side. And what that allows is it allows some headroom right in that area. And that dormer is approximately 6.25 in length. And again, it allows for you, because the roof line is sloped, and it is, you know, an existing room right now, and it is usable space right now, but because that roof line is sloped, the dormer allows for more headspace. And that was to the request of the neighbors to create the dormers.
Thank you.
In answer to the question that Ms. Hayes just mentioned, I believe the dormers are visible from the street, but they're a considerable distance back. So the sight line being that you're on the ground and it's 3 stories above, you might not see much of it. If you look at the front elevation drawing, it shows the dormer, but you wouldn't see it quite as drawn because you're on the street and you're below. But if the technician could put the front elevation on the screen, you could see it there. There. Okay, you can see it. You can see it there. It's dotted. It has a dotted surface, but in reality, that's set back quite a distance from the front elevation.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is correct.
That is correct.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we are amenable to that. Like I said, we are willing to work with everybody. So yes, absolutely.
Well, it's certainly a generous sized home, and being that it's already the biggest home there, any changes are going to, you know, make that even more apparent. So it's the struggle in terms of whether or not what's being proposed is you know, has adverse impacts that are unreasonable. Struggling with this one.
Madam Chairman, I've reviewed this application a lot, and I don't share the concern of the appellants that this is a huge intrusion into the neighborhood. It seems to me that the addition is has been done or is being proposed to be done in a way that's consistent with a respect for the visual character of the neighborhood, in that the additions are being done with are being accommodated by virtue of dormers that are near the back of the house and don't adjust the front elevation roof line, nor the back elevation roof line for that matter. I think that what is requested is not unreasonable, and I think that the applicant has gone to some lengths to try and reflect the neighborhood character and the neighborhood feel, and to that extent, Madam Chairman, I would be in favor of approving this application.
I will just add, I think, sidescape.
Madam Chair, I might as well weigh in with my 2 cents as well. I think it's, it becomes dangerous if we look at it just in terms of numbers. Sure, on the face of it, perhaps there's, you might feel concerned about the size of the FSI, but in looking at the elevations, particularly the side elevation, I think the density is dealt with in a way that is sensitive, as Mr. Nipfel has said, to the neighbors. They're building over the existing footprint and they're stepping back. I think it's important to note that there's a step back at the 3rd floor, and they're maintaining that, for the most part, apart from the dormer, they're maintaining that pitched roof, which to me goes to the massing, and massing to me has the biggest impact. If it's boxy, if it's large, I think they're handling that in ways which will mitigate that feeling of an overwhelmingly large home. So I personally, and these are generous sized lots as well. We're not seeing, in my view, that we see in other neighborhoods, some other neighborhoods that tend to be, a little more downtown, maybe really small lots. The lots are, I think, generous. And, as I stated, they're proposing to build over the existing footprint, and the step back in combination with the pitched roof and dormer, I think mitigates any serious negative impact on the adjacent neighbors. So I'm in support of the application as well.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1 and the provision of opaque glazing, opaque glaze screen on the balcony and the top floor.